Fox News. 12th grade boys becoming more conservative as girls trend overwhelmingly liberal, survey finds. We are creating this idea that if you're male, you're bad, says psychotherapist. Yeah, and if you're straight, you're bad. And if you're white, you're bad. So there's all these bads out there, right? We got the four olds. White, Christian, straight, male. So it's just like communist China, the four olds. Now, before we dive into this article, I do want to thank everybody for stopping by my channel and supporting my work. I have been, if you didn't notice, maybe you have an ad blocker, I've been accepted into the partner program by YouTube. And as far as I can tell, maybe you know more about this than I do, so maybe you could enlighten me. But as far as I can tell, I get paid off of clicks on ads. So, hey, maybe you want to click on a couple ads? That could give me a little bit of a boost. But anyway, let's get into this article here. We're going to start off with the video, and we'll take a look at that, see what that has to say. So let's jump in there.
Listen to this. Americans tend to assume that young people lean left, right? Well, a recent survey found that 12th grade boys are nearly twice as likely to identify as conservative, which is a sharp increase from previous trends.
Yeah, so they're getting a message. But this, if you look at this chart here, it says it only measures 36% of the male population in 12th grade, which leaves a huge percentage, 64%, that are politically homeless, don't know, don't care, aren't political, are moderate in some way or shape or form, etc. But of course, we all know that being moderate today means that you're, according to the woke, you're on the far right. You're like libertarian all the way, you're nationalist all the way, you believe in conservative values all the way, all that stuff. So.
However, when it comes to 12th grade girls, we see the opposite. They lean more liberal, from 19% in 2012 to 30% last year. Our next guest is a psychotherapist who says these findings make total sense. Thomas Kirsting joins us right now to explain. What do you mean it makes perfect sense?
I mean, you look at everything, all the messaging in society, it's sort of like, you know, everything is about advancing women, minorities, and so forth. And young men, young boys are kind of being left out. They're sort of being left behind. Then you have politicians out there saying, like, the #1 problem in America is white men and things of that nature. So I think young, 12th grade boys are kind of seeing through this. And then you take away, the pickup trucks. I just saw a story about that. Like, they want to get rid of pickup trucks. And if you go down south, probably the majority of senior boys that drive are driving pickup trucks. So it's sort of like, all right, we're creating this idea that if you're a male, that there's something wrong with that and that you're bad.
Well, so
This idea has been around for a long time. When I was in college, at community college, it was all, well, women are so oppressed, and that's still going on, of course, too. But it's like you got to walk a mile in a woman's shoes. You don't know what they go through. It's really terrible. They just have the worst. It's just so awful for them. You don't know. It's just you don't understand unless you're a woman. But it's like, how can you know how bad it is if you're a woman, right? You don't have a frame of reference either. So you can't know how bad you have it if you're a woman unless you can somehow see both sides. Nora Vincent did it. Nora Vincent, who ended up offing herself because it was too much for her to handle, saw that, men don't have it easier than women. Yeah. Imagine that. What a weird concept.
So this is kind of a seismic shift. In this article from thehill.com, they said as recently as the late 2000s, liberal boys occasionally outnumbered conservatives. Back in the Carter era, both boys and girls leaned liberal. Back in the 70s, they were more to the left. Mm-hmm. And now for young men to become predominantly conservative at an alarming rate to Democrats, that could actually impact some elections.
Well, I think back in the 70s, they were looking at more implementation of social programs. And it was coming off of the heels of the Equal Rights Amendment and all that stuff. So, not Equal Rights Amendment, the Fair Pay laws that were passed in the 60s. So you got a lot of people who are opening their eyes to, like, oh, okay, the old way of doing things, the Jim Crow way, the oppressive way, the way that is harmful to individuals of different ethnicities is not okay. Maybe we make everything equal for everybody. So that seems to be more reasonable. In the 60s now, though, of course, conservatism has been redefined to mean, like I'm hardcore conservative to these people. I'm like, every romantic partner I've had has had a job, had income of some sort of her own, including owning her own business, successful business. So, and I've been involved with women who are not the same race as me. So how's that white supremacy? Again, What are you talking about? It's not like I'm oppressing anybody or holding her back. So yeah, it's not really the case that I'm like this hardcore conservative that they would paint me to be, the woke would paint me to be. I'm not. Just the reality is women work. Women have always worked in the Western world. We're not always going to work in the Western world. I just think that women should put their career in the back seat, focus on family if they want to have that family.
I believe so. So the other thing too, the Carter, era, liberalism was much different than it is today. It's gone so far, so extreme, and like I pointed out earlier, I think young men are starting to see this. You look at just college enrollment, for example. I talked about 60-40. There's also over 500 women's centers in colleges throughout the nation, and only a handful for young men. And I see a lot of this in my private practice, Steve. A lot of young guys falling behind. They feel like they can't advance. Because there's nothing really there to help advance them, because the idea is that men have always dominated, which is partially true, and we want women and everybody to advance, but we can't do it at the expense of another group.
Okay, so if this survey is true and 12th grade boys are more conservative than they are, an astonishing number, what happens to them when they go to college? Because that, for the most part, is the incubator of the progressive movement.
I think it depends on their household where they come from, too. So, like college, yeah, there's a lot of indoctrination going on. But a lot of kids I see when they go off to college, they will go to a university, a lot of boys in particular, and they are smothered with a lot of this liberalism and left stuff. But some of them get sucked into it, some of them don't. And when you hear the term conservative, right, it's perceived by the left as something terrible. I look at conservatism as the following: of faith, family, and country, and being, and as far as a male, being a protector and a...
Well, I don't qualify then. I'm not conservative. Faith, family, and country. I don't have all three of those.
Provider, and treating women with respect and everybody else with respect. It's not what it's being portrayed to be.
All right, great analysis of the numbers. Tom, thank you very much for joining us live.
My pleasure.
All
right. So there's that. We'll take a look at the article to see if it says anything different. High school boys are trending more conservative than in previous years, while girls of the same age are now moving overwhelmingly in the opposite direction, according to a study by the University of Michigan. 12th grade boys are nearly twice as likely to call themselves conservative versus liberal, with a gap steadily growing in recent years. Girls, however, identify themselves as liberal at a rate of about 30%, up sharply from 2015. Can I close this thing? Psychotherapist Thomas Kersting joined Fox and Friends Tuesday to share his thoughts on the Monitoring the Future survey and explained what he believes is behind the results. And I mean, what he said makes sense, so can't really refute it. Kersting explained that the numbers go beyond politics and are a reflection of the way the left has talked about men in recent years. More like recent decades. I remember when I was a child saying grace at Thanksgiving and saying, I'm sorry we killed off all of the, well, I think I said Indians, but Native Americans. And, it's like, where does that come from? Because the fact of the matter is the natives fought back. It just was a one-sided fight. I'm not saying that it was okay or anything, but that whole notion about like, oh, we were so bad to the Native Americans, that's a progressive notion. 12th grade boys are kind of seeing through this. We're creating this idea that if you're a male, there's something wrong with that and that you're bad, he told host Steve Ducey. Then you have politicians out there saying, like, the number one problem in America is white men and things of that nature. So I think young 12th grade boys are kind of seeing through this. Yeah. I mean, you have 90 million people in this country that are white male and straight, something like that. Do you think that a huge percentage of those people in 12th grade are going to be like, oh, yeah, it's just fine, men are evil. Let's go along with that. There's going to be a lot of them that are going to be like, no, we're not. And they're going to have friends who are men who are going to be like, dude, we're not evil. And then also they're not getting any action. They're at that age, they're 18, 17, 18, where they just a bundle of hormones and they want to have a girlfriend. And girls are so difficult to deal with these days. It's so difficult to deal with these days. The reason I was against this country for so many years is because of women in this country. I wanted to move to another country after the United States because I wanted to get myself a girl. Couldn't get a girl here in the United States. And if I did get one, it was like, okay, you're just not even a nice person. What the hell am I doing with you? Drive me up a wall, right? Drive any man up a wall because we don't want to deal with this. The song written about this, American Woman Get Away. Sorry, ladies, if you're listening to this, maybe you're okay, but the majority of women in America are just not good relationship material. I'm not saying that men are much better, but for sure the women are like, it's like, wow, you want to focus totally on yourself. You want everything to be about you. It's about us when you have a relationship. It's about us. And men are not good enough for you. Like, no, I'm not good enough for these women, etc. It's like, Who are you? You think you're really that special that I'm not good enough for you? Whatever. The numbers represent a shift from previous generations when young men and women leaned left in similar numbers. Everything is about advancing women and minorities and so forth, Kirsting noted, suggesting that this may be pushing more young males away from liberalism. I see this a lot at my private practice. A lot of young guys are falling behind. They feel like they can't advance, so there's nothing really there to help advance them because the idea is that men have always dominated, which is partially true, and we want women and everybody to advance, but we can't do it at the expense of another group. With great power comes great responsibility, is why men dominated. Men not only had the power, but they also had the responsibility weighing on their shoulders.
Well, I don't know about your world, but in ours, women are treated as the equals of men.
So yeah, women didn't have as much power in society in general, but they also didn't have the responsibilities that men had. So it balanced out. And everything was working fine for thousands of years. And then we had to go upset the apple cart. Now look what's happening in the world and in the country. According to the Hill's analysis, the trend is a striking departure from as recently as late 2000s, when the number of boys identifying as liberal was 21% in 2009, but down to a low of 13% in 2022. The number of girls identifying as conservative, on the other hand, is nearing all-time lows, making up just 12% of high school seniors, the study found. Well, we're going to have a problem then. There's going to be even fewer people getting together in relationships. I have this other article here. I'm not going to read this, but we will take a look at it real quick here. It's from The Guardian. Are teenage boys in the U.S. becoming more conservative or more dangerously apathetic? Social media is abuzz, with a survey showing 12th grade boys are twice as likely to identify as conservative. The reality is a little more complicated. Yeah, and this article goes in to point out that, look, it's altogether only 36% of people identified as either left or right. So there's a huge percentage that have not identified at all or are moderates. It goes on to claim that the author here says that the future of liberalism is going to be female and the future of conservatism is going to be male. And that may very well be the case, but if that's the case, we're going to have serious problems in this country because people are not going to be coming together, because liberals especially do not want to associate with conservatives. They think they're all evil and bad and wrong and all that stuff. As far as going to college and getting brainwashed is concerned, that can happen. People down here in the comments we have, let's see, anything good here? Voter Trump 2024 586. Gen Z is in a lot of trouble. If you ask them any history or geographical questions, they not only do not know the answer, they haven't even heard of what you're referring to. They were taught social media and woke ideology, which will doom them for the real world. Not necessarily. There's plenty of people out there I know who are in their 50s and woke, and they are making bank. So that's not necessarily the case. You can be woken and survive in this world. As far as conservative and liberal, I don't know, but women have always leaned towards emotion for decision making, hence liberal, and men towards logic, hence conservative. This is not true for everyone, but it feels like it is for the vast majority. Okay, so I don't think that conservatives are necessarily more logical than liberals. I think that liberals have this notion that we need to take care of everybody, and conservatives have this notion that you need to do it on your own, that you're better off doing it on your own, that you can stand on your own 2 feet and do it. I think there's a happy medium somewhere in the middle where, yeah, there's going to be programs that can help you out. There's going to be systems that can help you out, but you should try to do as much on your own as you can. That way you have that satisfaction of doing it on your own. It's also yours and it can never be taken away from you, or less likely to be taken away from you. Who knows what the government might do in the future. Fight for America 669 says, I have a daughter who is working as an RN in a major hospital now, right out of college. She is learning politics now, and understanding conservative is the best choice. Maybe. Lightning Bolt 77 says, I'd like to see a survey of college seniors and a follow-up survey of the same people after they've been in the real world for 4 to 5 years. College life is mystical. Real life is real. Yeah, but like I said, I know plenty of people who are woke, who go out and make bank, who go out and succeed, who don't have these problems. There's plenty of conservative people who I see who can't make a go of it, who can't earn any money, who can't earn any real money. So I don't think that's really a factor. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. But maybe as we see these divisions become more solidified, more concrete in our society, that we will see this, where conservatives are the ones who are making money and liberals are the ones who are not making any money. Who knows? This is an interesting thing that was bouncing around the internet. I felt like I had something to add to the conversation, so thought I'd make a video about it. Thank you for sticking around. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure that you're still subscribed. And now we're going to watch the palate cleanser which is going to be Another Hungry Road.